what I'm going to do is I'm kind of working two computers. I also have not been trained in Zoom yet. I'm going to get that later today, so hopefully this works out all right. And I kind of broke it up into different sections so we can kind of discuss. And I'm going to start with just creating a class, the settings and things like that. And we'll see, you know, again, anytime you have anything to contribute, just unmute and throw it out there because it could be helpful to some of us are not as familiar with it. So I am going to start presenting on my other computer here. When you go into Google Classroom, this is kind of what you first see. This is the setup here. This is what you're going to see. And if you were to, you want to start a Google Classroom, you just press the plus sign, create a class, and the only thing you have to do is name it, and that's it. And that will create a class. And what I did was I created a sample class here. It is, the class is sample. And over on the settings, you can kind of see how you have it set up. There are different ways to invite students into the class. There's links. There's a code you could email to kids. So there are a few different ways. There are a few different ways to invite students in. There are different settings that I've noticed. I didn't understand the settings, but there is a setting. Oops, sorry, got people waiting. Okay. There are one setting that I was not aware of, and I don't know if you've had this experience, but students can post and comment on the stream. And so the default is that when you have the stream, which is the main page of your Google Classroom, the default setting is students can just type whatever they want there and send it out and everybody can see it. So that was something that I was not aware of. You do have options of, students can only comment, they can't post anything, or only the teacher can do that. And you can kind of hide everybody else. So that is something that I was not aware of. Another one of the settings when you're just setting up your class is Guardian Summaries. Sorry. Can everybody hear me now? I'm sorry. Did I like bounce out for a second there?
Yes, you did, but you're back now.
Okay.
I don't see your screen though, Kevin. I don't see your.
Yeah. I gotta try to get this back here. Oh, gosh. I think I got kicked. Did I get kicked out? I apologize. Okay. Let's try this again. All right. So what I was just about to speak about was this Guardian Summaries piece. I had kind of looked it up when I was researching. Has anybody used this yet or had experience with Guardian Summaries? Yeah.
No.
Yes, it just shows the announcements on the page essentially.
Okay. Because I read about it a little bit. I don't know if it's something, as you get into it, you may want to look into that because it does, it provides them with upcoming If you have assignments, scheduled, it will show the parents upcoming, assignments and things like that. I know especially in the young middle school and down, the parents really want to know what's going on, and that could be an opportunity to kind of, again, I'm not that familiar with it, but it could be an opportunity to keep families informed of what's going on. Let's see. So those are your settings. This is kind of the main screen. This is your stream. One of the things that I found super helpful was if you want to post something, you simply type it here. You can add Google Docs, links, any videos, stuff like that you want. You have the opportunity here to send it to multiple classes. You could send it to specific students or uncheck certain students if you want. And what I like is scheduling. I like to type up all my announcements over the weekend and schedule them all during the week. And that freed up a lot of time during my school day remotely to answer emails and grade stuff as it was coming in. So I like to schedule a lot. One of the things I noticed, though, is that if you select multiple classes to send it to, you can't schedule. And I don't know if anybody has a workaround for that. I don't know why that is, but that's what your screen looks like. Anything they want to add to how they use the stream or? Okay. All right. Let's see. People, you can invite people. You can invite teachers as collaborators on your page. And one of the things you're going to want to remember is to include, special education teachers, paraprofessionals. They like to see what's going on, so it's always good to include them when you're adding people. And you can just add students here. You can invite them by just inviting students like this. You start to type in their name. Okay. All right, Malcolm, got it. One thing that I don't like about this, and again, I don't know if anybody has figured this out or not, but if you go to invite students, right? I'm going to invite somebody. When you can't build a roster unless somebody has figured this out, but you can't enter students and then send out the invites later. So I have my Google Classroom set up for this year for the blocks, but I don't think there's a way to enter all the students in and then invite them later. Does anybody know anything about that? No. So I think that as you enter students and send the invite, it goes out immediately.
Yeah, Kevin, I do know just a little bit about that. So
Yeah.
when you invite students, it's grayed out. And then when they accept, it turns black. But if you don't want to do that, you can just give your kids the class code and have them enter themselves into the class.
Right. So I guess, so there's no way to actually enter their names until you're going to invite them, I guess, is the point. So that's a little bit of a problem. The other thing that is weird, kids can unenroll themselves. And I don't know if there's a way to stop that from happening. Is anybody aware of anything about that? Because I had students in the spring take themselves out of my class and all their work goes away. So that is something that is kind of concerning to me, and I don't believe that there's a way to stop that from happening. Any questions or anything about inviting people? Or any other comments, anything anybody else wants to add?
Well, I had a quick question about guardians. I mean, I don't want to inundate them with information. And we have those team splash pages at the middle school where we're going to have calendars and we're going to write down our tests and quizzes. And
Right.
so I don't necessarily want them to get stuff from Google Classroom and then get information from the splash page. So when you invite a student, is the parent automatically invited, I guess is the question.
I don't believe that they are. You can see that there's an Invite Guardians button here that you can click on. I had some parents join, and I'm not sure how they did that.
Kevin, I believe that if a parent joins one classroom in one class, then they're automatically joined to all of the classes. Because I tried to delete a parent once because it was a teacher's name. So I tried to delete it and said it would delete them for all the classrooms. So I teach, English, and it was going to remove them from their history, the parent from their history class.
Yeah.
So once one teacher invites that parent, they appear on everybody's.
Okay, thanks.
Let's see, can't one, sorry, there's a question in the things here, can't one, can't one or IT load classes all in one shot rather than one at a time? That's a question, you know what, I can ask, so the question is, can like the IT person or somebody load all the kids at one time rather than
rather than doing them one at a time.
Yeah, I don't really know. I'm gonna have to ask Anthony about that and maybe do a little follow-up because you're right. I mean, I did it one at a time, so.
Yeah, Kevin, that's absolutely insane. I'm an engineer and I do time study stuff. That's one of my areas with manufacturing. Nobody would do this one at a time. If you've already got them batched in a classroom, you ought to be able to just batch the class right into and create a new classroom for every teacher that has those kids.
Right.
Doing it one at a time is like, what do you do when you got 30 kids? You got 7 classes, you got 200 kids, and you got to hunt and peck and do every single one. I mean, you're going to be there all day. My time's more valuable than being a data entry clerk.
Well, I mean, that's the way I did it in the spring. I don't know if anybody else knows of a faster way to get this done.
No, I will say it's a little time consuming, but it's only time consuming one time. So it takes, literally probably less than 4 minutes to enter all the kids in. Because if you just have like a list on the side and you just hit their names, they populate pretty quickly.
They do pop up when you start.
And then you're done.
Yeah. Anything else about adding people? All right. Classwork. So when it comes to classwork, you have different options. I can share my experience, and you guys can pipe in with what you did. If you just press the Create button, you can create assignments, quizzes, questions, material. I mean, there are different things that you can create. I typically in the spring just did assignments, and when you click on it, this comes up, and you have the ability to add items from your Google Drive. And that's what I did a lot, is I added, at first it was Google Docs, and then I started using Google Forms, which grade automatically, and that made it really, really nice. But I'm a math teacher, so it was nice to be able to do a lot of multiple choice and short answer Google Forms, and I thought that was really helpful. So you can add from your Google Drive, so I basically created everything in my Drive, or you can create right here. You can create one right on the spot. You can add instructions and a title. You can set it up to be graded. Again, you can select multiple classes if you want. You can pick a class. If you want to give different kids different assignments, you can click on your students and uncheck any ones that you don't want to have this assignment and send them a separate assignment. You can also schedule it. One of the things that I noticed was if you were going to add in if you were going to add in a document, so if I were going to add in this document, one of the things that I didn't understand at first was how they look at a Google Doc. So the default is students can only view the file. And at first that caused a lot of confusion for my students because they wanted to type right on it. And if they can only view the file, they can't type right on it. So you have three options for this when it's a Google Doc. They can view the file. Students can edit the file, which means all the kids in your class can type on the same one document. And it will save all the changes that everybody makes, which you might want to do if you have a classroom, you want to establish classroom norms or something at the beginning of the year. All the students can type in their input, and everybody will be able to see all of it. Or what I ended up using if I had a Google Doc was make a copy for each student. So then they get it, and they will, they'll get their own copy. They'll be able to type it and resubmit it. So Heidi just said that it's important to number or date the assignments if possible. Parents and students last spring were confused when assignments had similar names under one unit. So yeah, that was another thing that I sort of got used to was actually adding in a due date. At first it said no due date, and parents and students were just not doing it, saying, oh, it's not due, so I don't have to do it. And I found that to be very confusing and problematic as well. But you can add a due date here. Couple things down here that I did not use, and I don't know if anybody used these before and wants to comment, but there is a place where you can add a rubric for language arts teachers, and there's also a check plagiarism, where I guess I don't know, I've never used that being a math teacher, but you can click on that and I guess it will scan the internet for to see if your students are plagiarizing anything. Has anybody had any experience with any of that or wants to share anything about assignments?
Benefits of the great Google overlord.
Yeah. Yeah,
So I just had a quick question, Kevin. So the difference between putting your assignment in Stream and putting your assignment in Assignments is that it will stay in some sort of Google record, right? You can go back and...
So my experience, so that was another thing is I initially started posting everything on the Stream because I didn't understand assignments. But when you post it on Assignments, it will show up in your Stream still. Mm-hmm. But when you post it on Assignments, you can add a due date, and that will remind students with notifications that this is due. It will show up in your grade. It will, let's see.
How do you find those grades?
All right, let's do it. So I'm sharing this with Lynn, my wife. Let's see. Title is, I think this is an old schedule. So I just assigned that, and here it is, schedule, that's what that says. If I look in the Stream, it's right here, it's been posted.
Okay.
And if I go to people, if I go to Classwork, I can find it there, and I can see how no one has turned it in. Lynn hasn't completed this assignment yet. It has been assigned to her. Grades, I did not do much. I did not deal with this page much in the spring. But as people turn in their assignments, it will calculate your grades for you. So let's see.
Is that only if you create it though in Assignments? Like instead of pulling a link from your documents, you have to create it in Assignments for it to grade it, correct?
Let's see. Here we go. So yes, if you're just posting assignments in the stream, you have assumption in the stream, it's not calculating grades.
Right. But I mean, when you go to Classwork and you do the drop-down box that says either post or create, don't you have to create in order for it to grade it?
Yeah. So if you click on Classwork, you reassignment or quiz, then you have to, well, you actually enter the grade. You would enter the grade. So if I click here, right, I know she hasn't, if she turned in, I would be able to actually grade it out of 100 points. And you can change that, if you're grading on a rubric from 0 to 4 or something like that, you would be able to set a grade. Did you have a question, Malcolm?
Just one thing, your voice is breaking up. It's coming in awful choppy.
Okay.
I don't know if that's something you can fix. But the question I have is grade reports. I would assume that when I click on grades, I see everybody's. When you, the student, clicks on a grade, they only see their own. That's not a public grade book. Because if it's public, I don't want to do anything there. You know, other kids can't see other kids' grades. That's not appropriate, right?
I don't believe that's the case. If you go to your class list, you can go individually, student by student by student, and grade, and then you can return the grade to them, return the work to them, and it's more or less a private conversation with the student.
But when that page you showed the grades,
no, students, no,
list for the grade up top.
They just see their own stuff.
All right, so they won't see. You know, if you're not Lynn McNeil, you're not going to see anybody else's grade but your own. Correct? Right. Okay. All right. I just want to. I'm new to this app, so I may ask a dumb question, but I just want to make sure that, you know, because it just tells me how I grade if that was the case.
It's not a bad question. You know, one of the frustrating things about using this in the spring, and again, this is a crash course. I'm not a pro at this, but I will say as a teacher using this, and even with iPass, which we've had for years, I don't know what the student sees. And it is a great question. And
I've had that problem with my grading tool in the past where a kid's saying, I'm seeing this on the grade book. And I'm saying, that's not what I see. And I literally would have to say, okay, let me log into your thing and show me your grade so I can look at it. And I'd walk over and look at it. And I go, oh, okay, I know. There's a setting wrong. You know, and you'd fix the setting. But the one thing I know from the spring, we did a lot of stuff with Microsoft tools. And we figured out a feedback way that we could get information to Microsoft. And they would literally change what they were doing. And 2 weeks later, the change would show up in the tool. So if something like I was suggesting about dumping in classes in one group rather than having to do it manually, and that's not a feature in there, if there's a way to get feedback to Google's developers, and they're getting enough feedback from other people saying that's, you know, we're doing 200 kids a day, a term. And if you're in a VOC where those guys typically have, you know, 150 to 300 students because they have them every other week and they do both grades, I mean, that's just totally a waste of time and being automatic. So if you can get that feedback to Google and it's a reasonable thing, they'll do things like, you know, add a thumbs up thing on there so kids can vote, you know, if you just ask them in the right way. So just a thought that, you know, these tools aren't static. They're dynamic. They can be fixed, updated.
Yeah.
Kevin, if you wanna assign something to me and we can go back and forth since I'm here. I saw that you added me as one of your students somewhere. I'm happy to I'm happy to fail the assignment so that you can show how you can go back and forth.
Sure. So here's me. Did you join my class yet?
Let me, hold on one second.
You should join the class first.
Yeah, here I go. I am joining your sample honors class. That is great. I never was an honor math student ever.
I gotta figure out what I did here.
All right. I have a newest assignment.
Yeah.
I got it. Here we go. Chariot of Sun's schedule. Okay.
here's a survey that I did from Google Forms. It will be out of 100 points. Obviously, I wouldn't grade a survey, but I assign it.
Yeah.
Now, 2 points have been assigned.
I'm going to mark it
And
as,
just go ahead and submit it or turn it in.
yep, I marked it as done. So it's submitted to you now. I did
Okay.
nothing, so feel free to give me an F.
Still think it's just assigned to you.
Say again, you're breaking up there.
It's just saying that it's been assigned. So
Okay, let me try again. I did turn, it asked me if I wanted to unsubmit it. Yeah, it says turned in. I'm going to add a private comment. You're the worst teacher I've ever had.
yeah. So here's this is one of these things, right? This is one of these issues. You hit submit on the Google form, right?
Yep. And
Did
so it's
you-
obvious there's a lag.
But did you submit it?
Yes, I'm actually looking at I'm looking at a button that says I can unsubmit it now.
So I don't know if it's a lag or what. I appreciate
Try to
the
is there a way to refresh your page?
yeah.
Try to refresh the page.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
refreshing. It's not working. All right. In any case, what Doug did is another feature where you send private messages. And so you can go back and forth with a student about an assignment. I found that to be very useful. There were some students that sent me private messages all the time. You know, I would like to show you what it looks like when somebody turns it in. I don't know why there's such a lag here. But you know, you would be able to, you can see how it says blank/100. I can grade, Doug gets a 9 out of 100, and I can return it to him. You can add comments. So those are the different things that you can do with the grading, but like in order to grade like that, you have to do it on, you have to add the classwork. If you just type it in your stream, then you're on your own for grading and things like that. Let's see. Sorry, I was just reading a comment.
You're the worst teacher I've ever had.
Okay.
For those of you who don't know, Kevin and I are very good friends, so I can tease him like this.
So it sounds like you may be able to get iPass and Google Classroom to kind of sync up a little bit. That's what the comment is showing. To connect grades from Google Classroom to the grades in iPass. Right. We have about 10 minutes left. Anything else, anybody? Again, I'm not a pro with stuff, but if you have questions or you want to go to a certain page of this, or you need to try to do something, I can try to help out. Anything that anybody wants to add or question or something we need to look into. Let's see. So this is the grades page. This is what it looks like so far. Doug had got a 9 out of 100 on this. He hasn't turned in this assignment yet. Out of 100 is not graded. I believe we calculate averages and things like that because I had. I did have with me when I was grading up. I also believe that you were to do in the Google Classroom, if you were to create an assignment or kids, and you add a Google form, I believe there is a way to import the grades from the Google form. So if you have a Google form, and it's a multiple choice, 10 question multiple choice or something like that, there's a button that says import grades. So if a kid gets 9 out of 10, you'll automatically upload that to the Google form to your Google Classroom gradebook. So I believe that's an option as well. Anything else that anybody wants to see? If you want to go back and look at all of the classes, you just click on the home page, classes. You can see that I've already set up my classes for the year, and you can kind of go back and forth between them. Is there a way to message students and their parents as well from Google Classroom when assigning work or sending out assignments? Message students and parents. So, let's see. I believe that if you want to message the parents and students, you can send them. There is an option to send private messages. Right here, a student, if they're guardian invited, I would imagine it would go to them. So when you put on general student, it just automatically brings you up to Google Mail like that.
In the spring, I had discovered that some of my parents' emails were loaded in naturally, some were not. But you can choose to send a private message to a parent or guardian through Google Classroom, as long as the email is in there.
Okay. So there are private messages when you're on the assignments page. Any other questions? Anything? All right. Well, I hope that helps. Again, I hope that I did find it to be very useful. There is a learning curve. I found that the most beneficial things were using that Classwork page to make the assignments rather than just posting stuff on a stream. I'm hoping to use the grading part a little bit more this year. I found private messages to be very helpful. I found scheduling assignments and scheduling notifications ahead of time were very, very useful to me because if you can get that done, it just posts automatically to everybody who is supposed to go to, and it frees up time rather than doing it and sending it out, doing it and sending it out. Set it all up ahead of time, and it's just freed up time during the day for me to, like I said, grade things or answer emails or answer questions about assignments and things like that. I found that scheduling to be very, very useful. Anything else anybody would like to share or have a question on?
Has anybody been able to figure out how to schedule out classes that obviously rotate in the day easily without having to do each day manually? So if like you wanted to put a schedule in the calendar,
right?
So students would know that they have an appointment at 9 o'clock today and 10 o'clock tomorrow and 11 o'clock the day after. I don't think there's any easy way to do that other than doing it manually, right?
I don't believe so. And like I said, the one thing that I did not care for is when you go to post something or assign something and you want to select multiple classes, it doesn't allow you to schedule that way. So you have to do those one at a time. And so I wanted to set things up to A, B, C, D, and I wanted to schedule it, and Google wouldn't allow me to. I would have to schedule it for A, then go into my D block class and schedule it for B, then go into my C block class. And I found that to be quite frustrating. And I'm not sure that you would be able to
Yeah, so it means you're going to have to literally schedule
Right. So when
each
you-
day one at a time, so that, you know, like if you have first block and it's always algebra 1,
Right.
it's real easy to schedule algebra 1 first block every day for the whole semester.
Right.
You could just put a repeating, appointment. Unfortunately, when it's first block, then second block, then third block, then fourth block, then fifth block, there's no way to literally edit the time. Even though it's a simple algorithm, it ought to be able to do that. It might be worth, again, that might be one of those things you want to feedback to Google and say, we know what our schedule is. It's a 7-day rotating schedule. We ought to be able to tell you what days we're in school, and you ought to be able to write an algorithm that literally takes my first block and puts it in the right block each day and skips the days it's not in. It would seem that way, because I mean, it would make so much easier. Otherwise, what's going to happen is I'm going to literally sit there and I'm going to literally have to schedule out 5 or 10 days in advance manually each day, putting in every single one manually. And, it doesn't seem like a lot. I mean, somebody mentioned it's 4 minutes to enter a class in the Google Classroom, but I've got 7 classes. That's 28 minutes. Now, 28 minutes times 50 teachers. How much labor did you actually use doing that as a group that could have been better spent writing up a better test or creating a better video classroom that's more important? I mean, make work, that's not what we get paid to do. We get paid to teach, so in manufacturing, you'd be worried about the same thing. You wouldn't want the person having to sit there all day long and to, write data sheets out. You want them to actually be making product. So same thing here. We ought to be making product, and we ought to be getting content for kids, not doing the peripheral stuff, because that's not beneficial to anybody. So
so the only thing I see, if you look at the screen, is just this. It's a very big, there's like no options for scheduling. It's literally what day and what time, and that's it. And there's no,
and it doesn't
like,
give you so it doesn't give you like you. Okay,
Right.
so unless you went into Google Calendar and do it out of Google Calendar, right? You do have a class code, so you very easily could go into Google Calendar and then set up calendars now where you can put a start and end time, and you could put content as to what you want to do.
that would be a way to do it.
But I'm not sure, does Google Calendar link into the classroom? I mean, it is a Google tool. I mean, I don't know.
So are you, Kevin, or not Kevin, whoever's talking. So
Malcolm.
what you're going to do is you're going to have a link in Zoom, and the link is never going to change. It's going to be something like zoom.nps/ whatever your name is. So mine is S. Bentley. And the kids are going to know their schedule, and they will be logging into your classroom at whatever time they're supposed to be there. Like it's not going to, the links are not going to change every week. So it's going to be like every day you come see me in this room. So it's not, I think you're making it more difficult than
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Right. How did you guys do for attendance at classes in the spring? I mean, percentage-wise of your kids.
It was a dumpster fire because it was not mandatory. They didn't have to be there. It was garbage.
Yeah, we got mandatory after the first like 5 or 6 weeks in the school I was at. And
the other thing is, if you want to schedule, say, a one-to-one meeting for extra help with a student, as soon as you enter it in Zoom or Google Meet, it will go straight to their calendar and your calendar. Okay. So that same calendar where they see their Zoom meetings, they'll see their regular scheduled meetings. They'll see your meeting.
Okay. So they'll see.
The Google Calendar is here, Google Meet is here, and you have a drive. It automatically makes a folder in your Google Drive with all the information in it, or all the assignments and things that can submit automatically goes to your Google Drive. So there is a Google Calendar tab there on the Classwork page.
Okay. Do they actually set up Google groups for each class? So like your A class, which obviously moves, do they set up a Google group so that you can actually, like, if you set up an appointment or you want to do a special meeting with that group, in the calendar, you can actually just load the group in rather than having to do the individual students? Or, I mean, I can set up groups like that manually. I'm just curious whether, since we already have the groups already set up in the grade book, you know, as your class schedule, does the system automatically give you a Google group for, you know, your Algebra 1 class?
I don't believe that. I did it manually in the past, so I, you know, went to Gmail and like made a Google email group with my students from my A block class, with my students from my B block class.
Right,
And
okay.
I would just type in like A block when I wanted to send out an invite to them.
Right. Or if something special was coming up, or, you know, you wanted to get a notice out to them,
Yeah.
it would be very helpful to do that. I was just curious whether that was, I mean, it can be done manually, just like we can set the Google Classrooms up manually. It just would be nice if it was something that they actually set up for us ahead of time. All right. Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody.
I just have can I ask one quick question?
Absolutely.
Time. So my program that I teach is the RISE program. So we're going to be in person. And so the students, you know, have pretty significant intellectual needs. And over the spring, we did a separate website for them so they could access all their classes on one website.
Okay.
You know, we're not supposed to do that again this fall. And we're in person, so it's not as essential, but, you know, I'm trying to like anticipate if we're going to go remote, what we could do. And is there a way to use the Google Classroom? Like, could it just be like the RISE program and have different classes within one Google Classroom? Like, can you set up folders or anything like that so we could sort of chunk like science work in one area, math work in another? Or is it just going to put out the assignments in the order that I put them in?
So if you go to Classwork tab, when you go to create an assignment, there's also a tab at the bottom called Topic. If you click on Topic, you get a topic. So I'm a math teacher. So if I want geometry, you can then add assignments under that topic.
Okay.
And you can kind of move your, so, you know, I click on this and it says that there's no button posted yet, but, so you can move stuff around, and I just moved that into geometry. I said copied it. And then if you want to do a different topic, then you can do a different topic. So you could do like math, language arts, or whatever it is, different topics, and drag your, you know, create your assignment and put it under the different topics.
All right, that's really helpful, actually. Thank you.
And that was something I had no idea even existed until like I knew I had to do this training.
Yeah,
so
no, because that's really helpful because it's easier for them just to have one site to navigate rather than going into a bunch of different Google Classrooms.
Yeah.
So, which they have to do for electives, but it would be nice just to have it all in one place for at least our program. Thank you.
Yep. Anything else before we move on to our other topics? All right. Thanks very much, and good luck with the rest of the day, everybody.
Thanks, Kevin.